other numbers here, and they're not very pleasant. The number of people missing in the World Trade Center disaster increased again today. The number now stands at 6,453, 120 more than yesterday. Workers at the disaster site have recovered the bodies of 276 people. 206 of those have been identified. The statistics are one way to get a handle on this terrible story. One way, not the only way. The pictures themselves, perhaps, even more powerful. And today, CNN's Gary Tuckman got a look at the very center of the devastation. Actually, when I flew over it, I wondered about that, literally a hole in the center.
It looks like, Aaron, that a meteorite came from the sky and blasted the earth. It is one of the most incredible sights. It's the second time I've been there. It took me aback when I was there the day after. I came back the second time, it took me aback one more time again.
We have pictures of what you saw here.
When you go to the site, the first thing you see is more than 2,000 workers on the scene, and their most important priority right now is trying to find air pockets under the ground, because that's where survivors could potentially be. They tell us, and this surprised me, that there are literally hundreds of these air pockets. Some are as big as a room, others are very tiny. They bring dogs down there, they bring cameras down there, and then when it's deemed safe, people go down there to look to see if they could find anybody.
It's been 2 weeks now, 2 full weeks, and do they expect, or are they just living on hope and prayer here?
There is no evidence whatsoever there are any survivors down there. They haven't seen anything or heard anything, but they do believe it's still a possibility, and that's why they're trying. What you're looking at right here is a stairwell, and unfortunately today this is where they found many bodies. Imagine the confusion in that stairwell. The day this happened, people were trying to run down, firefighters were trying to run up, and what they have found are bodies of civilians and firefighters in that stairwell. And it's just an overwhelming scene. It's just so hard to believe. One other thing, Aaron, I want to tell you about. We've seen things that just don't make sense. This is in World Trade Center Tower number 5. It's a donut shop. The donut shop is heavily damaged, but inside the donut shop, we still see the donuts sitting on the baker's rack, looking like they're ready for sale. The building around it is heavily damaged.
That is unbelievable.
And the donuts just sit there. It's just very hard to look at all of this.
I mean, I'm a Midwesterner and lived around a lot of tornadoes, and tornadoes would do erratic and crazy things, and sometimes you see things like that. But that is striking.
I'm a Midwesterner too.
Yeah.
I remember being in the basement for tornado warnings, seeing the damage it did, and that's kind of what it looked like.
Thank you, Gary. Gary Tuckman joins us tonight. Thank you. Lower Manhattan, of course, best known as a financial community, but over the past decade or so, it's also become a neighborhood where New Yorkers have come to live, raise their families. Most of those people still struggling to get back into their homes tonight, almost 2 full weeks after the disaster. With more on this part of the extraordinary cleanup, CNN's Beth Nissen.
Damon Gersh is busy. He's the president of Maxon's Restorations, the largest disaster cleanup company in Manhattan.
10-4, I understand they opened 10 buildings over in Battery Park City, so I expect an onslaught today.
His company already has cleanup crews working in 500 apartments in Lower Manhattan, working to remove a heavy coating of fine dust from windows, sofas, floors,
And of course, just let us know.
tabletops, windowsills.
Oh, God, look at that.
You can feel it's a gritty concrete dust. Everything that the World Trade Center was constructed of is in this material.
A mix of pulverized concrete, particles of glass, steel, asbestos, ash, and soot. The collapse of the World Trade Center towers blew more than 2 million tons of dust and debris into the air in an immense, dense plume.
That plume was so big, it just went through every building. It went through convectors, it went through elevator shafts, it came in through air duct systems. It goes into the upholstery. It'll be in computers, fax machines, stereo equipment, in closets. It's on people's clothing. It's going to be in kitchen cabinets. We haven't seen anything that wasn't covered in dust.
Buildings adjacent to the World Trade Center were hardest hit. This apartment looked out at the South Tower and now looks out at what's left of it. 3 inches of dust and debris make the room into a 21st century Pompeii. Maxon's cleanup workers are undaunted by even this level of destruction.
When we see a really badly damaged apartment, we say, okay, we can clean this up and let's get to work.
Their work is laborious. The heaviest debris is shoveled out or vacuumed up. Every surface is repeatedly wiped with specially treated sponges and cloths. and finally polished. It took this worker 11 minutes to clean one nightstand. It is taking an average of 12 hours for a team of 5 to clean a small one-bedroom apartment. Average cost, $1,500, usually paid by building management or owner's insurance. Those who try to save money by doing cleanup themselves are often frustrated. Dust rags and household vacuum cleaners are not up to the task.
If they try to use their own vacuum cleaner, it's going to get pulled in one side and actually blown into the atmosphere out of the other side.
Industrial vacuums trap the dust. The dust has settled thickly even in apartments like this one, several blocks from the World Trade Center. Hard surfaces can be scrubbed. Many cloth items, stuffed toys, pillows, mattresses, are so permeated by dust they must be thrown away. Still, most residents are determined to get the job done, and soon.
I want to come back. I want to be in my neighborhood. I want to be with my neighbors.
We want to make them comfortable again. I mean, there's no place like home, so that's where people want to be. We want to give that back to them.
That's a huge job. More than 270,000 people live in southern Manhattan in the areas surrounding Ground Zero.
From those buildings collapsing, you have dust and debris covering all of lower Manhattan. All of these buildings, this one, that one, this one, office buildings, residential buildings, all these are going to have to be cleaned.
One windowsill, one lampshade, one book at a time. Beth Nissen, CNN, New York.
Tomorrow, New Yorkers will vote in the first phase of choosing a mayor, a primary campaign, a primary vote that was put off because of the disaster. Some say they'd like to keep the mayor they have. But can Rudy run? Will he try? We'll talk about it in a moment.